Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phil the Conquistadork. Let's talk a little bit about Not for Broadcast. Now, Not for Broadcast is a strategy FMV game that came out in early access last year, 2020. This is kind of a new one for me because I don't normally like to review early access games, but this game has been in the works for a long time. They've been making all kinds of updates to it. It's interesting. It seems to have figured itself out, and so I don't see the harm in giving recommendations based on what they have now. First and foremost, it's an editing game. You basically play a person in a weird dystopian society where you are in charge of editing together live television for the government-based news organization. And that involves cutting together news, it involves cutting together weird segments. You've got to censor people. Sometimes people show up drunk and they swear, and you can't have that. So you gotta get in there and bleep them out because you've got a 5-second delay on everything. You've got to make the right kinds of cuts to keep your government overlords happy, and you've got to choose commercials to go in between different segments. And so it becomes more than just making sure that everything is appropriate. You actually have to make certain decisions based on what you think is best for the people or the government itself, that kind of thing. You can choose to be kind of a bootlicker for the fascists, or you can choose to get out there and kind of ride the edge and try to make some sort of kind of revolutionary comment, I guess, the best that you possibly can based on the tools that you're given. Now, like I said, it's an FMV game for like 90% of the game. You're going to be editing things together, and this is pretty terrific. It's exactly the sort of thing you hope for in an FMV game, or at least the kind of thing that I hope for in FMV. It's not terribly polished. The people in it, first and foremost, everyone's terrific. The actors are terrific. The sketches are really funny, but the quality of it overall is like just a step or two above your local community theater, which I like. I really prefer it that way. I think it makes it better. And it's fantastic. The jokes are really solid. It feels like there's always something strange that they're throwing at you plotline wise. At one point, you are covering a sporting event, and they never make it clear to you how this sporting event is played, what the rules are. You just have to do your best with basically no information to get it out there and to make it entertaining for the people back home. Maybe they don't even know how the fucking game is played. I don't know. But it's really funny and really, really clever. In between those moments, you actually find yourself in a funny little adventure game, question and answer sort of thing. You basically have to make choices. You are reminded of your family, the people you're working for, and you've got to make certain choices. And, you know, it's like I said, are you going to choose in favor of the government and your job and protecting your family, or are you going to try and kind of, you know, flip the bird to these people, and is your family going to suffer the consequences, that sort of thing. In a weird way, it actually kept making me think of games like Papers, Please. Not just because of the government dystopian kind of aspect of it, although that's a huge factor. It had that real consequence to your actions vibe, and also it felt like you were always just kind of on the edge. You're just getting by. You're at no point, at least in my gameplay, did I feel like I was, you know, doing well. I wasn't well off or anything along those lines. So that added a very interesting middle ground to the game, so it isn't just constant editing chaos, which is basically what the game is centered around, but you do get little breaks in moments like that, and I personally was very grateful for those breaks, because as I said, the editing, it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. They do, slowly work you into it, but God, like, it is really tough to get high scores on this one. At least it was for me. You have got to be really good at multitasking. You've got to be good at paying attention to like 5 different things at once. You've got to listen to the live feed. You've got to listen to the delay. You've got to get everything just right. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. But I found personally it stressed me out. I had to play this game in small pieces. And that actually brings me to another problem that I had with the game. I wish that the checkpoints were more close together. For example, there was a time where they're introducing a new gameplay factor into the game that could make or break your run. And they do it at a point where you're really far into the particular challenge that you're playing, and if you fuck up and lose, as I did several times, you've got to start over way at the beginning of that chapter, and it's very discouraging. It just gets very frustrating because you've come all this way and you gotta start all over, and it happens a lot, and it isn't always clear what you were doing wrong because so much of the game is very chaotic, and you've got like 19 or 20 different things that you have to do to stay on top of everything, so you don't know immediately how things fucked up, and it's frustrating. All that being said, this is a really fun game. Like I said before, I don't normally cover early access. I don't like the idea of reviewing a game until it is in its finished state, as impractical as that can sometimes be. I'm basically taking myself out of that rule for this game specifically because it is that high level of quality. It does scratch a certain weird retro itch. The editing aspect of the game is very clever and very fun and very well implemented for the most part. Like I said, the FMV is super funny, super surreal and strange. The actors are all fantastic. The writing is really fun, and there's a level of quality that it makes you feel like you're in on the joke a little bit. It feels like with the right set of cameras and the right friends that you could go out there and actually make a game like this, which is encouraging, which is pretty neat. And maybe you can. Maybe this is the kind of thing that'll encourage people to go out and make their own FMV video games. I certainly hope so. I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of having more FMV games in the future. I'm going to keep an eye on this game as it progresses throughout early access. Like I said, they've been doing lots of terrific updates and that sort of thing. They are hard at work on this, and I'm going to be very interested to see what the final product looks like, if it's very different from what we have right now. But for the time being, to be completely honest, you could do a lot worse than getting out there and playing this game. Not for broadcast. I highly recommend it. Fantastic stuff. The cat's stuck in a box. Absolutely.
The book starts with a prologue, and in that prologue, we meet the great man.
The great man.
The great man, Andrew Ryan, the
Union buster and libertarian extraordinaire.
Yeah, he is. He makes union busting seem so, wholesome and good, doesn't he?
He does. I think that was the idea back then because, like you were trying to fight off communism. So union busting was the wholesome, all-American apple pie and basketball kind of a thing to do.
As he said, union busting makes him feel good.
Yeah, exactly.